Hello and welcome again to our continuation of writing trig functions from a graph. Remember, to write the equation from a graph, the first thing we want to try to recognize is that this is a sinusoidal function. A sinusoidal function is just a graph that repeats itself over time, over a certain period. We will always try to use the cosine parent for a function because it's much easier to use. Our period, remember, is the distance from peak to peak. Now, if you count across here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 tick marks to get our period. But remember, that's going to be 12 pi over 6, because each tick mark is pi over 6 radians. And that gives us a period of 2 pi. This function repeats itself every 360 degrees. So to get the period, it's going to help us get our b. We talked about a formula, 2 pi over b. That has to equal our period, which we said was 2 pi. Just put a 1 underneath there, makes it pretty easy. Notice the 2 pi's are the same, which means that our bases have to be the same as well. b is 1. The amplitude, we need our midline. So if I take a look here, it kind of looks like my x-axis might be right over here. So my midline, I'll do that in black, looks like it might be here in the middle, right there. So that's our midline. To get the amplitude, that's just the distance basically from the peak to your midline. We call that A. And I can count that. A equals 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just that distance. So our maximum will be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Y is 5. And our minimum at 1, 2, 3. Y is negative 3. Now if you notice, the distance between 5 and negative 3 is 8. That's twice your amplitude. The phase shift, remember, it's a hard one. To get the phase shift, that's the distance between the y-axis and the peak. Remember, we're just going to use the y-axis and the peak because that's for cosine. And if I count there, here's my y-axis. Well, I'm already at the peak here, so my c right here is just going to be 0. And if I want to, I could use this one, 2 pi, but 0 is easier to use. Now the vertical slide, remember, that's our midline, and it's y equals 1, which just happens to be our d value. So we have everything we need. We have d is 1, c is 0, a is 4, and b is 1. We're ready to write our equation. Y equals, using cosine first, a little easier to use, it's 4 cosine b is 1 of theta minus c is 0 plus 1 our d. And there's our first equation. Now, to write this in terms of sine, everything stays the same except for our phase shift, our c value. So to get that, what we have to do, look at the graph. So for the sine of theta, c, if I think back up here, look back up here, sine starts at the origin and goes up. So I go to my midline, and I'm going to look. Where is this going up on my midline? It crosses here, but it's going down, so that can't be it. Here it's going up. And I can count to there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is 9 pi over 6, or 3 pi over 2. And that's my c value, or my phase shift for sine. Now, I could go backwards to here, because it's also going up. 1, 2, 3, and that becomes pi over 2. So I could make this as, be careful, negative because of direction. So that would become a theta plus pi over 2. Both would be correct to use.